We are storytellers by nature, sharing with others what we experience, perceive, and believe of life, our joys, adventures, our losses. We tell ourselves stories as well. Some leave us trapped by false beliefs and self-doubt. But there are also stories of persisting, exploring, and rising above. Stories of uncovering the truth, enabling powerful transformation and triumph. These are those stories. These are your stories. Hello, folks. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Muro, and I am delighted to welcome you to And So It Is, Stories of Truth, Transformation, and Triumph. My pronouns are he and his. I'm a spiritual counselor, a religious science practitioner with the New Thought Media Network, and I'm also a transformational coach. My ministry and my mission are to help people co-create the most authentic and most fulfilling life experience they possibly can. Let me see. Okay, so we come to you each week on the first Saturday, or rather each month, on the first Saturday of the month, 11 a.m. Mountain Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Time. So if this is your first time, it's so good to have you here. If you're returning, welcome back. You know, in each episode of this show, we'll hear from people like you, people like me, who have been held back by false or limiting beliefs, and how they've uncovered their truth, enabling them to transform their life experience and then triumph because of that spiritual journey. Last month, I was the interviewee, and my interviewer was my daughter, Juniper Jane Jones. Well, today, turnabout is fair play, because Juniper will be my guest. I just want to see who's here. Hang on for a second. Oh, hello, Lori. Good to see you. Hello, Shay. All right. So, let me tell you a little bit about Juniper. In addition to being my fabulous daughter, Juniper is a bookkeeper in Arizona. She's a mom to her beautiful daughter and to my granddaughter. She is an aspiring tap dancer and a doggy mommy to Winston and Belko. So please welcome Juniper Jane Jones. Hello, Juniper.
Hello.
So good to have you here. I am delighted that you agreed to do this interview.
Yes, I'm happy to be here.
Before we do get to the interview proper, though, I just want to point out, folks, that while obviously I would know a lot about my daughter's life story, what I know and what she experienced are not necessarily the same and are very likely quite different. I mean, think about it, right? We never can know what's going on inside someone just by what we see on the outside. And that's what makes this exploration so powerful. We get to go within. So, Juniper.
Yes.
Where does your story start? Where, what, when in your life are we as you start this?
Okay. We're starting at the beginning of my spiritual journey, which was in the Roman Catholic Church every Sunday when my mother would give me and my brother each a quarter and send us to church. Because now I know, because I'm a mom, that she needed an hour and a half by herself. She was like, get out. And it was boring because we were kids and we sat in the back and we laughed and made hand farts and it was terrible. So we got nothing out of that. And then nothing after that for until high school, when my mother herself got into a church and started going to retreats. And they had them for adults and they had them for teens. So she signed me up because she wanted everybody to be saved. So I started going to retreats, and it was advertised, for lack of a better word, as, youth learning about Jesus and, finding themselves. And so you talk about things that you don't know. It's been over 30 years, so I can say this now. It was not very Jesus camp. It was very much a bunch of crazy teenagers doing a whole bunch of things they shouldn't be doing. So not a lot of spiritual happening there. I mean, there was a little. I mean, I learned a little about, the Bible, and actually read the Bible for the first time. So it's not like nothing came out of it, but it was so far from pure. I'll end that segment right there. So that was high school years, and then really nothing until I was older. Let's see, Elise was about 3 or 4, so probably in my 30s. Elise was going to a daycare that was run by a church, and they invited me to
Elise being your daughter.
Yes, Elise, my little baby who's now 26. Rude. So they invited me to their church, and I went, and it was very, very different from, Roman Catholic Church and Episcopal Church, which was pretty, I guess, like everything's done in its place and very nail stand and whatnot. So this church, there was a band and there was singing, and, there were like little movie clips and skits. So it was fun. And I was like, okay, I can get into this. And I did. And I got really into it. And over a few years, I became a leader. I was running groups. I was teaching baptism classes. I was one of the leaders of the drama team. So I got really involved.
So if I may, what was it about this place that really drew you in?
Well, the first thing was that I didn't have a really big friend base. So all of a sudden I had all these great women friends and, people to talk to every Sunday and during the week when we did things. I went to a small group, so I had like a best friend, and it was nice to be part of something. So I really, really like that part about it. But the closer to the inside of it, to the core that I got, the more things I saw that were kind of like, that doesn't make sense. Like, oh, you're pumping gas. Did you win the soul of the person at the pump next to you? No. So things were sounding a little off. And it got less fun and more serious. And I don't mean serious like, I mean serious as in your life depends on this and your soul depends on this, and, dire is the word.
So what was your feeling? I mean, if you're being told that everything about you completely depends upon your following these exacting tenets of this faith, how did that feel?
Daunting. Like, I would never make it. There's no way I can make it, because there was no wiggle room. It was, everything has to be in line. You have to be the perfect wife. You have to be the perfect mom. Your kids have to be perfect in public. And and each class you teach and each group you lead has to be perfect. And there was no room at all for, oh, I'm having a bad day, or, oh, I don't feel well. It was, you're on all the time.
And who was it that decided whether or not you were actually doing the right thing?
The pastor,
Ah,
the leader of the church, and the people. Like he was here, and then there was this tier, and then I was like third tier. So the people above me.
It's a lot of tears.
Yeah, there were a lot of tears in many levels. Yeah.
So if you were to think about the false beliefs, the limiting beliefs that they were trying to put on you, besides having to be perfect, what else would you say?
Well, one of the things that was really hard to make sense out of was that if I gave away my money, I would somehow become more prosperous. That didn't resonate. So we gave away a lot of money, and we're not miraculously blessed with all these things that they said would happen. I think that one of the biggest ones was that if I just did all this, then my whole life would be okay. Everything would be fine. I'd be good. I'd be good with God. I'd be good with community. And I'd be, this great and wonderful person. And I just did not feel that. I didn't feel like even after I did all those things that I was becoming a better person. I was just like skittish and anxious and tired, to be honest. I mean, we were at church 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm. So here you were being basically sliced away a little bit at a time, each time.
Yep.
And how did you get out of that? What was it that gave you the idea, hey, wait a minute, something needs to change here?
Okay.
How did you find that energy or that?
It's funny. It's funny you say, how did you find the energy? And the truth is I had no energy. I crashed and burned because I was exhausted and I just couldn't do it. And I couldn't take being yelled at for not being good enough by, as an adult, by another adult, in sitting in meetings and getting yelled at because of dust. And I was just so exhausted. Dust because the lobby wasn't clean enough. I just pulled an example out of my head, but yeah, things like that. And I said, you know what? I can't, and I won't. And I called my leader and the one who was directly over me, and I said, I'm not coming back. I can't do it anymore. And they were shocked and sad, and well, they said they were shocked and sad. But I found out very quickly after I left that there were a whole lot of scandals happening inside the church. And I am not saying the church collapsed because I left, but shortly after I left, it all fell apart because everything came out about things, which I won't be specific, but bad things were happening. And it all fell apart. So that made me feel better. I know that sounds really mean, but it made me feel better that it made me feel like, okay, so this really wasn't a good thing. I really wasn't in a good place, and I made the right choice. So that helped me. I know it hurt a lot of people, and I feel really badly about that. But I know I stayed in touch with a bunch of them for a while, and they all found good places, and they were good. They were fine. It just, for me, I could not find another place for a while, like a really long while. And when I did find another place, I also became a leader, and I was also there, 3-4 times a week, working really hard. And the same thing. It just, I don't know, maybe I was just unlucky in places, but I just was not, I hit a point where I just was like, I am just not fitting here. This just isn't working. And after one weekend where my husband at the time had just started a job overseas and I was all alone, and the people who were supposed to be like my fellow leaders and peers and church members, they were like, okay, well, bye, we're all going to lunch. And I'm like, great, where are we going? And they're like, oh no, we're going. Oh, okay.
Okay. So when you were talking about the previous place,
Yes.
it sounded like what had really attracted you to that place in the first place was connection, that the ability to belong.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like that's exactly what you were looking for in this place as well. So there's a lot to be said about community. There's a lot to be said about community. But I want to just hold off for a bit and take a little break and come back, and I want to talk about that.
Okay.
All right. So just a moment, folks. We'll be right back.
New Thought Media Network is on the rise. We're looking to grow with you. Do you have technical media experience or perhaps a desire to learn? Are you willing to volunteer your precious time and attention? We share this message to benefit all. If you possess a computer with a camera and a microphone, we will share our knowledge with you. Behind the scenes or being the star, let us bless our one. Contact us at info@ntmedia.org.
And we are back. And once again, here we are. And so it is Stories of Truth, Transformation, and Triumph. I am Zoe Muro, and this is my daughter, Juniper Jane Jones. Okay, so Juniper, we were talking about these various organizations where you had been looking for connection, looking for the ability to belong.
Mm-hmm.
And how did this particular church come about?
My husband's coworker, at the time I was married, one of his coworkers went to that church and said that it was a really great place to be, and they were, really close because it was a small up and coming church. So they invited us, and we went and kind of stayed.
Okay. This was the place where, once again, you started
Yeah.
teaching and such.
Yes.
Okay. So what were some of the things that were going on there that felt good, and what were the things there that you saw that were questionable?
Well, one of the things that was good about it is that I learned a lot about the Bible. I learned a lot. I mean, the pastor in that church was really different, and they were more of a teacher and less of a show. So I did learn a lot, and I liked that. I mean, learning about God, and sometimes when I would read the Bible, I'm like, this makes absolutely no sense. But he had a way of, making it make sense. So that was interesting. I mean, I definitely have some different opinions about the Bible now, but I like to learn, and I felt like I was just really learning a bunch of different things that were good for me at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that felt very wrong was that the people there were not very nice to me. They loved my husband, but I was always just kind of like in the corner doing my book, because I ran the little bookstore we had, doing my bookstore stuff and everybody seemed fine to tuck me in the corner. And I was like, oh, okay. Like that place, I had zero community. I did not have the same, I had no closeness to anybody. And that place was all about work. I worked hard. I cleaned their bathrooms. I did a lot there. And I think part of it was wrong of me to think that doing all that work was going to get me friends. Because that's not why I should have been doing it. But yeah, that didn't sit right. I didn't like that part. And I needed like the whole package to really feel settled. And I didn't get that there.
Got it. So what kept you there? And then what broke that hold?
Oh, well, I was there because I was a wife and my husband was the leader of the house. And if he said I had to stay, then I had to stay. That was a big message in that church. So he wanted me to go. So according to what we were now believing, I had to go. And what broke that was when he got that job and was no longer there. And I felt like it was a good time to freak out on my own. I mean, obviously I said, hey, I just need you to know that I can't do this if you're not going to be here, and I won't anymore. So sorry. But they were fine. I don't think they were at all surprised either that I was leaving. So, I mean, it wasn't easy though. I will say that though. It was not easy to make that decision because I was still having the thought that I needed to do these things or I wasn't going to be right with God. I wasn't with my marriage, my family, it was just a lot of pressure, but I needed to not feel badly all the time,
Well, basically you were being told you were less than. You were less than in virtually every way.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that you were able to stand up to that is something that I really hope that you can see as being most definitely a part of a triumph.
Yes.
I mean, when I asked you about energy and you talked about how your energy was so depleted, you still managed to step up. You still managed to step out of that. Do you have any idea what brought that about?
Self-preservation. I don't know. I think, well, I was a little heartbroken, to be honest, both times, because I had this picture in my head of what I thought God and community and spirituality were and religion, and these two experiences that I had that were similar and kind of, crashed and burned in similar ways. It was really heartbreaking. And I thought, well, it must be me, when multiple things fail around you, you have to look inward. So I was like, well, what am I doing wrong? And it took a long time to make sense of that. And what I came to the conclusion was that I was just not picking the right things. It's not me. I just didn't, those places just weren't good for me. Because there were plenty of people who were thriving in both places and they were fine. I mean, it was a great church. The second one, it was a great church for so many people. And I think that's great for them. It was just not great for me. It wasn't feeding my soul or, what I needed.
Yeah, the reality of it is that regardless of what religion you look at, there are people that follow it and follow it happily.
Mm-hmm.
right? And the experience that each and every one of us has most certainly is going to be different because we're all different,
Mm-hmm.
right? Despite the similarities, there's uniqueness, of course, right? How we experience things can be completely different.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you had this understanding within you.
Mm-hmm.
No, there's more to me
Right.
than what I'm being told. So where did you go with that?
Well, right after leaving, I entered. Okay, so right after leaving the church, I went nowhere with it. I went absolutely nowhere because I just needed to feel me without all of that. You know, like I didn't read the Bible every day, and I didn't read it at all. I don't think I've picked it up since. And I didn't have things to plan and things to do. And I just kind of sat with me for a while before I even looked into anything else. And it was probably a good year or more before I started looking at other things, and like other religions and other beliefs and things like that. And the very first thing that I looked at that was anything religion wise was a presentation at a museum about the Tibetan Book of the Dead,
Mm-hmm.
which I won't go off on, but was very interesting. I mean, they believed things that were nothing like I had heard of before. And the whole process that they went through was beautiful. The dying process, I mean, is what I'm talking about. And it was beautiful. And that opened up like, okay, there are really cool things out there to learn about other religions that don't make me feel bad, that don't make me a terrible person if I don't do it correctly. And that's kind of like the very first thing I did that opened my eyes to having some hope that, I'm not a lost cause in the God world, So whatever, and whatever God was up there, I was like, okay, well, I'll be okay with you if you be okay with me. Is kind of the way that I looked at it.
So it sounds like you had gotten to the point where the religion aspect of it was one thing, but the spirituality aspect of it was something that was becoming stronger in you. You were starting to feel that energy.
Yes, that was the biggest difference from my past to what I was looking forward to, because what I was looking forward to wasn't about pleasing someone else and, doing things to get things. It was learning and experiencing and kind of communing with the world, not just with these individual people in a church. It was nature, and it was like the universe, and it was the heavens. And I know it sounds kind of woo-woo, but I just got into a lot of things that I never would have thought about before, and they all kind of fed me and felt warmer than anything I ever did before.
Going back to connection again, because it was such a powerful issue earlier. And now I see it as such a powerful catalyst and such a way of bringing up that energy. Now you're connected to the universe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was very different. But it felt so much better. It felt more forgiving, because I'm just like this itty bitty little speck in the universe, and my actions or misactions, I'm not gonna, damn somebody to hell because I didn't share the message with them. It's, it all just brought me into perspective that I am am me in this big world of so many experiences and things. And it was definitely, we keep using energy, but it was very energizing, and I felt connected to something. And, I got goofy and hugged trees and did things just to connect to the world around me. But it helped and made me feel like more of a person with a purpose.
Mm. And what did you feel that purpose was? Or is that something that's still developing for you?
Oh, that I don't know if I'll ever figure out my full purpose, but I think the biggest thing for me was that it's okay that I'm not perfect, because I probably will never be perfect, and that's fine. And that's fine with the universe. And it's something that, I sometimes fall back and I'm like, oh, I'm screwing this up. But you know what? It's gonna happen, and it's okay. And it feels good to be free from, I don't know, those hard religious rules.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What was I going to say? For some strange reason, this bumper sticker came into my head. My karma ran over your dogma.
That's awesome.
So I had to laugh when you were saying, you didn't want to be too woo-woo. Like, you realize you're talking to me, right?
I know.
And personally, what I used to think of as woo-woo, I now think of as woo-woo.
I know, but not everybody does. So I don't want to, talk about all the goofy things I do, because sometimes.
I definitely want to hear about the goofy things. Come on, this is
okay.
part of your spirituality. Let's hear it.
Okay, goofy things I do. Every night when I see the moon, I give the moon like a little smile and a bow, because I just feel like, moon, it's there, and it connects us all, because we all see the moon. We all see the same moon, and it just feels like it's this great big connector in the sky. So I always give the moon a little nod. What was the other wacky thing that just happened one day? Okay, I was fighting a screen door, trying to get it in place. And it was just me. I lived alone at the time. And I couldn't get the stupid door in. And I'm fighting, and I'm crying, and I'm yelling. And I'm like, I'm such a loser. I can't do it. And then I don't even know what happened. But I just kind of stood up, kind of shook it off, popped the thing back in place, and it was fine. And I all of a sudden had this huge rush of like just energy, and just like turned to the sky, and I said, thank you, Divine Mother, for your strength and your wisdom. And I don't even know where that came from, but I just felt so strongly that there was this big Divine Mother out there who was like, I'm going to help you right now. And I got it, and I did it, and it was great. So I'd never said anything like that before. So that's one of those experiences where I feel like if I tell people, they'd be like, that's weird. But it was really cool. So I really liked that.
Okay, well, I can assure you that my audience does not find that weird.
Okay, good. Good. That makes me happy.
Okay, so you're able to see, for example, the spirituality that exists in nature, and you're able to see that you yourself are part of nature. You yourself are not an insignificant. You use the word. I don't think you said insignificant when you're talking about yourself being this small portion of the universe. And hopefully you didn't say insignificant, but if you did, absolutely not true.
Good.
All right. You are a significant part of this immense universe. And yes, we all are specks in comparison to the totality. But the totality is made up of us. And in my spiritual beliefs, we have only the one source, right? Whether you call that God, Allah, whatever, the universe, whatever term. And therefore, we are all part of that same oneness. Right? So just as a drop of water
Mm-hmm.
shares the essence of the ocean, so too do we share the essence of what I refer to as divinity.
See, it's good you mentioned that, because that was one of the things that I thought about when I was in the more the organized church, was that every other religion was wrong, but we were right.
Hmm.
And that really made me feel bad, because I was like, but there are amazing people of many different religions. So that was a big thing when I stopped going in that direction and started my new direction. I was just like, whew, I can love everybody now. And, I felt like the whole world was saved now, because, they could believe what they want and they'll be okay. I completely dropped the whole thing that, if you don't believe in Jesus, then you're never going to go to heaven and you're going to go to hell. Like, that whole thought process was gone for me, because it just didn't settle in me well. So now that was gone, I just felt, I don't know, better about the world in general. It just seemed like, yeah, we can, and we are all probably praying to the same thing with a different name. And I just, I love that thought.
Yeah, there are many paths to the truth, but there is only one truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's awesome. That is awesome. For many years, I wondered where your spiritual path would lead you. And, obviously yours and mine are very different in many ways, but very similar in other ways. I think that the idea of connection, the idea of belonging, the idea of self-efficacy, of self-agency, I think all of that is universal. I think it's, when you get right down to it, it's really at the hub of what each and every one of us needs in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
What gets to be unfortunate is what you were talking about with the exclusion. With the, well, this is good, no, nothing else is. Inclusivity
Mm-hmm.
is part of nature.
Mm-hmm.
And diversity, a part of nature. Without diversity, nature just doesn't work.
Right.
So when you look at these different things, they obviously have had an effect on your life now.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'd like to do is we're going to take a short break. When we come back to break, I'd like to hear about the transformation that has gone in your life, and how that has led to what you would think of as your triumphs.
Okay.
Okay. So just a short little break, folks, and we will be back in a moment. Well, hello again, folks. And we are back with Juniper Jane Jones. Okay, Juniper. So
Yes.
tell me about your life now. Tell me about the transformation, the triumph.
My life now. Okay. My life now is good. I don't have like the big huge friend group community that I always thought I wanted, but I have the people that I'm close to, I'm very close to. But that's also not important to me now. I don't have the same need for all those people in my life. The people that are in my life, I adore, and I feel good with that. So a big triumph for me has been becoming self-sufficient, and I am for the first time, which I realize is like, whew, took you a while, but it did, because I had a lot of things to work through, a lot of things with self-confidence and, really putting myself out there into situations where I'm like, oh, I can't do that. But that's just my lack of self-confidence saying. So I put myself out there in situations that I didn't think I could do, but succeeded. I've been succeeding because I've not been listening to the doubts in my head. And I'm just believing that, no, I can do this because I worked hard and I've studied a lot, and I'm more grounded. I'm not, off and wherever with my, I'm not full of all these crazy thoughts and things that bring me down. I'm now about, well, how are we going to pick up and what's going to make this better? And let's not sit in the bad. What's going to make it better? So I am succeeding in things now. I have a really great job. I have this really pretty house. I have very dear, sweet love in my life. And these are things that I never thought I would have.
That's absolutely beautiful.
Okay.
So when you think about where you start, you think about where you are.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think about where you might yet go?
I don't know, because I started at point A, like now I'm at like point bicycle, and who knows what's next? I have no idea. So I don't know, but I know I'm not done exploring, I'm not done reading. I really want to visit like all these cool places like Buddhist temples and things like that, and Hindu things. Like, I just want to take it all in and just enjoy all of it. So I don't know where that's going to take me, but I'm excited for the trip.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like you're packing the right way.
Okay.
The suitcase is pretty much empty. It's like, okay, fill it.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
That is really an important aspect of spirituality, in my opinion, is that openness, that ability to say, while I know certain things,
Mm-hmm.
there's so much more to know.
Yes.
I think that's about as healthy an attitude as one could possibly have. Let me see. What was I going to say? So do you have anything in particular that you would refer to as your spiritual practice now?
No, I don't think so. Nothing habitual. Well, except the moon. We've got the moon, but that's a pretty small thing. But no, I've not found anything yet that is particularly spiritual. I try a lot of things, journaling, reading other texts, things like that. But
those are aspects of spiritual practice.
Well, when I hear practice, I think something that I do on a more than every now and then basis. So, yeah. So nothing has really become like a daily thing yet.
Okay. Well, to be in stark contrast to those people that were telling you all sorts of ridiculous things many years ago, I will tell you, you cannot do spirituality wrong.
Good to know. Very good to know.
So if you find that it feeds you, it's right.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect.
I mean, well, feeds you and doesn't in any way hurt anyone else, of course.
Right.
And anything that is spiritual is going to infuse you with an energy.
Mm-hmm.
There's no question. And when I think of spirituality, that's exactly what I think of. I think of spirit. I think of energy. I think of that energetic vibration.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really important aspect of life, being able to be in that flow, being able to raise that vibration.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a wonderful feeling.
It sounds wonderful.
So you have a lot of things ahead of you. I mean, if you're looking at looking at different spiritual practices, looking at different spiritual communities, looking at different ways that people express their connection
Mm-hmm.
to the universe in whatever way they do that. These are all wonderful, wonderful explorations.
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely am honored to be a part of this with you.
Yeah, that's been fun, because I've enjoyed being a part of all the stuff you're learning and your shows. So now I think that, because we were never, before you started this, we never talked about religion or spirituality. We never really got into those kind of things. So I've also really enjoyed that.
Yep. All right. Is there any last words?
Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you so much for your honesty, for your openness, for your vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
It means a lot to me to be able to really hear all of these things and to be able to know where you came from,
Mm-hmm.
where you've been,
Mm-hmm.
to have an idea of where you're going. And it's marvelous. It is truly marvelous.
Yay.
All right. So, folks, this concept for this show resonates with you. Let people know about it. Let other people hear about this through your social media, through personal discussions. And without a doubt, if you would like to be on the show, if you would like to express your story of transformation and triumph, love to hear that. Absolutely. There is no story that is too intense. There's no story that is too simple. They're all stories of triumph. And they're all worthwhile stories. So I also want to point out that here on the New Thought Media Network, we are working so hard to be able to bring the joy of new thought to as wide an audience as possible. And it's not about dogma, and it's not about rules, and it's not about this is what you must do and this is how it is done. No. We are open at the top. We are here to provide an understanding of all of the greatness that we have at our hands, that we have at our disposal, that we have within us. That is what we're trying to do here. So if you have an opportunity to spend some time on the New Thought Media Network, I'll invite you to do that. Tomorrow, for example, we have shows from across the country, all different spiritual centers doing their Sunday services. So you can get a sense of all these different ways that people express themselves. And of course, there's over 40 hours of programming each and every week. So I am so very, very grateful for the time that we've had together, Juniper. It's
Me too.
meant so much to me. And folks, I am delighted to have you here as well. So I see that Lori was here. So good to have you here, Lori. And Jay, glad you were enjoying the conversation. Oh, and Reverend Jim, good to have you here as well. Thank you so much. Our pleasure and our honor. All right. So I will see you folks next month, and we will have another magnificent, magnificent story to talk about how we have been able to take the falsehoods, take those limiting beliefs. Awesome. Find the truth and make a difference in our own lives and in the lives of others. All right. Thank you very, very, very much, Juniper. So,
Thank you.
all right, folks, I will see you again soon. Have a magnificent, absolutely magnificent day, week, month. Be well.